Kenneth Graham, which is, believe me, my young friend, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, half so much work doing as simply messing around in boats. Yeah. Simply messing. Yeah. And that's why we called it the Water Rat. We never called it the Water Rat Sailing Club. It was the Water Rat. Dave Miller, who was an RCYC star sailor, was an industrial designer, and he designed the logo. And that's why we have this magnificent logo. We started to race here in 2019, and as usual, Bill Cox, who organized everything, organized this. Jack Tones told us they were wrecking the late figure, the Victorious, and we should get them to lift off the captain's cabin as our first clubhouse. Seeing it come down Unwin Avenue on the back of a trailer was an incredible sight. Something happened in the fall of 1969 is that Ian Bruce phoned Hans Fogg, who was our great Olympic sailor who built the sails, that he wanted to bring a boat he just designed to sail here at the Water Rat. He came from Montreal, and Montreal was frozen in. And because we had open water, he wanted us to sail a boat called the TGIF. What did that become? The three of us were here, sailed it in December. It became the Laser. Most famous dinghy ever developed in the world, sailed at the Water Rat before it sailed anywhere else in the world. Woo! We needed to build a fence to protect our boats, because by that time we sailed mostly sunfish. So Bill Cox and I went to the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, where we were members, and got the general manager to give us 125 names of important members. And we sent a letter out to them asking for $100 each. 100 out of the 125 gave us $100, so we had $10,000. And we built a fence about where those trees are. The next winter, I moved the fence a little bit closer. And the winter after that, I moved it out to the road. And Jack Jones phoned me and said, "You must never move that fence again." And I said, "Thanks, Jack, we're now at the roads." Jack Layton was not one of my favorite politicians, and I will not get into that. But he went to the city council and made a speech saying the Water Rat is the type of club we need. We don't need these royal clubs. And so he demanded that the Water Rat be put on a city map to kosher what we had done. I did not tell him that the Water Rat was funded and put together by members of the Royal Canadian Yacht Club. The land was just sand, and we needed to make it solid. Maury Edwards was the CEO of McCord Cement, RCYC dinghy sailor. Said that many late afternoons when they're building these big buildings downtown, the pumps break and they have to pour the concrete out of the trucks somewhere. So at 4 p.m. I would get a call on a plumbing company, and I'd rush down here with my wife Mary, the Brymer brothers, Stu Green, John Eastwood, Bill McNaughton, and many others, Alan Adelkine, and we would put on hip waders and smooth the concrete to solidify this place. One day, 7 trucks with 9 cubic yards of concrete showed up at 4 o'clock. Is that ever a hell of a lot of concrete to spend? One day I came down here, and anybody who's seen the picture, there were no trees here. And I came down, and Bill Goodrum, the famous Olympic sailor, was here planting these willow trees. There was absolutely nothing here before he did it. Johnny Eastwood, whose mother was also a Goodrum, came and planted that grass because he thought we should have a croquet pitch. That was originally a croquet pitch. So we raced all winter, and we had a lot of really good sailors here. Most of our Olympic team who sailed fins came here and sailed out of the Water Rat, including Volkmar Neudorfer and Tom Johansson, who are here today. Jack Patey, who was from Toronto, absconded with a lovely lady from Montreal named Audie and started the Water Rat Triathlon. We sailed in the morning, had a car rally up to the ski resort for a slalom and had dinner. Audie kept all the memorabilia, which we've now given to the Water Rat. I always laugh at this, but Dr. Margaret Whitfield, who's here, Margaret is here. She showed up about our first or second year dressed in a wetsuit. We had never seen a wetsuit at then, and she filled it appropriately. It was the first we've never seen of that attire. I'm going to tell you another story, which is really it's about the Water Rat. I get very upset when I see that the Toronto Hydroplane Club say they were here first. That's a total lie. In 1969, this was a complete wilderness. How the Outer Harbor Sailing Clubs got here is an interesting story. In 1971, it was the federal election year, and Trudeau I was under serious pressure. A member of Parliament for this area, Rosedale, which is where we live, was in deep trouble, the Honourable Donald MacDonald. My wife was a friend of Don's wife, Ruthie, and asked me to come to a meeting on Sunday in the morning at Donald's house. I walked in and asked Don what did he want me to do. He glibly said, work for the opposition. So Don said that the election was very close and the key was St. Jamestown. I explained to him that the community sailing programs like St. Jamestown YMCA, Moordale House, Westwood YMCA, North Toronto YMCA were being kicked out of the island marina by the city. I had to give a speech to all of them that Wednesday. As you know, I give lots of speeches. And if he would come, we would promise them that if he was elected, that he would give the federal lands, this is federal land, east of the Water Rat for all the community sailing programs. He asked that the St. Jamestown people help him campaign. 29 signed up, and he won St. Jamestown by 600 votes and won the election by 400 votes. And a man of his word, he gave all the land that we have here to the Water Rat, or to the sailing club. One club didn't take up their land, and that was North Toronto YMCA. And the Hanlon Boat Club, which is really Upper Canada, took it over and has caused us all incredible problems ever since they arrived. Well, it is now 50 years since we conceived the Water Rat. And all of us who were there at the start could not be happier than we are today to see what you have continued. Thank you very, very much for including all of us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Paul. Excellent.